Ambassador Hyun-woo straightened his blue diplomatic uniform as he walked into the massive chamber. The Galactic Council meeting hall was bigger than most human cities. Crystal walls stretched up so high that the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Floating platforms held different alien species, each group looking down at the center where the younger races sat. Hyun-woo took his place at the small human table. His team sat beside him. Ji-hee, his military advisor, kept her face blank, but her eyes moved constantly. She watched every alien in the room like a hawk watches mice. Dong-min, the team's expert on alien biology, checked his tablet nervously. So Young, their communications officer, adjusted her earpiece and nodded to Hyun-woo. Everything was ready. The 847th session of the Galactic Council will now begin, announced a voice that sounded like singing crystals. The translator in Hyun-woo's ear turned the beautiful sounds into cold words. All junior species will observe proper protocols. Hyun-woo smiled his practiced diplomatic smile. 37 years. For 37 years, humans had sat in these chairs and listened to aliens talk about them like they were children. For 37 years, they had nodded and agreed and asked politely for basic rights. The first speaker was Counselor Zeth Moran of the Veltar. The crystal being's body caught the chamber lights and threw rainbows across the walls. When Zeth Moran spoke, it sounded like a church choir, but the words were sharp as broken glass. Today, we discuss the continued integration of primitive species into galactic society, Zeth Moran said. The crystals on his body pulsed brighter. Some younger races have shown promise. Others remain bound by their simple carbon-based thinking. Hyun-woo's smile never changed, but Ji-hee's hand moved slightly toward her sidearm. She caught herself and folded her hands on the table instead. Above them, the Nethys delegation floated like living clouds. Their speaker, Thaisara, was a shifting mass of purple gas that sparkled with tiny lights. When she spoke, her voice was like wind through leaves, but the translator made her words sound bored and tired. "The question before us is not whether these species can learn," Thaisara said, looking directly at the human table. "The question is whether they are worth teaching. Some creatures are meant to serve, others are meant to lead. Evolution has already decided which is which." Dongmin's jaw tightened. He had studied the Nethys for years. He knew they were not as evolved as they claimed. They were just gas and basic electrical charges. But he said nothing. None of them said anything. That was the human way in council chambers. The Korth delegation sat on a platform made of black metal. Their reptilian bodies were covered in scales that looked like armor. Grax Tal, their speaker, was sharpening his claws on a piece of stone. While he talked, the scraping sound made several species shift uncomfortably. "Strength determines hierarchy," Graxtal said, his forked tongue flicking out between his teeth. "The strong rule, the weak serve. This is natural law. Some species understand this truth. Others pretend they can change it with words and treaties. The Korth had tried to invade human space twice in the past 20 years. Both times they had been turned back by what they called lucky human tricks. They still believed humans were weak. Hyun-woo had never corrected this belief. More speakers followed. The insectoid Drakmor clicked and buzzed about proper resource allocation. The fungal spore dominion talked about guided growth for inferior organisms. The energy being luminals hummed about charitable patience with developing minds. Every speech was the same. Every speech talked about humans like they were animals in a zoo. Smart animals, maybe. Interesting animals. But animals all the same. Finally, Zeth Moran called for the main presentation. "The Council will now hear the Primitive Species Integration Protocol," he announced. "This document outlines the proper path for younger races to earn full membership over the coming millennia." A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a document with 500 pages. The title floated in letters made of light, "A Gradual Approach to Elevating Lesser Species." Hyun-woo read the first page. than the second. His smile stayed perfect, but something cold moved behind his eyes. The document was not about integration. It was about control. It laid out a plan to keep younger species as servants for thousands of years. Maybe forever. Human representative. Zeth Moran's crystal voice cut through the chamber. Your species has been remarkably cooperative over the past decades. We are curious about your thoughts on this generous framework. All eyes in the chamber turned to Hyun-woo. Thousands of alien beings watched him with the same interest they might show a clever pet that had learned a new trick. Some looked amused, others looked bored, none looked worried. Hyun-woo stood slowly. He looked around the chamber at all the species that considered themselves superior to humans. He thought about the farms on human worlds that fed half the galaxy. He thought about the human ships that carried alien cargo across space. He thought about human doctors who had cured diseases that had plagued alien species for centuries. Then he thought about the hidden message he had received that morning. 3 simple words from Earth. Stand by. Ready. Counselors. Hyun-woo said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Humanity is deeply honored by the Council's continued guidance. We accept this framework with gratitude and look forward to earning our place over the coming centuries. The lies came easily. They always had. For 37 years, humans had smiled and agreed and played the part of grateful students. For 37 years, they had let the older races believe they were in control. Zeth Moran's crystals pulsed with satisfaction. Excellent. The human species continues to show proper humility. This session is adjourned. As the aliens began to file out of the chamber, So Young leaned close to Hyun-woo. Sir, we're getting reports from the colonies. 3 more worlds have gone dark. Admiral Tae-young is asking for your status. Hyun-woo nodded. He looked up at the empty platforms where the alien delegations had sat. Soon, very soon, those platforms would not seem so high. Tell the Admiral we're still in respectful mode, he said quietly. But ask him how much longer he thinks that will last. Ji-hai gathered her papers and stood. Sir, with respect, I don't think it will last much longer at all. Hyun-woo's diplomatic smile finally faded. For just a moment, his real expression showed through. It was not the face of a grateful student. It was the face of a predator that had been pretending to be prey. No, he said softly. I don't think it will either. 3 months had passed since the last council session. Hyun-woo was eating breakfast in his quarters when the emergency alarm sounded. The sharp beeping meant only one thing. A human world was under attack. So Young burst into his room without knocking. Her face was white with shock. Sir, you need to see this. The Drakmor Empire has taken New Busan. Hyun-woo set down his cup of coffee. His hand was steady, but his eyes went very cold. Show me. The hologram that appeared made Ji-hae curse in 3 languages. New Busan had been a peaceful farming world. 20,000 humans had lived there, growing food for trade with other species. Now the orbital view showed burning fields and destroyed cities. The colonist named Minho tried to contact us before the attack, So Young said. Her voice shook, slightly. He said Drakmor ships appeared without warning. They demanded all humans leave immediately. When the colonists asked for time to gather their belongings, the Drakmor opened fire. Dongmin pulled up the casualty reports. His face was grim. 15,000 dead. The survivors are being held in detention camps. The Drakmor are calling it a property dispute resolution. Hyun-woo stood and walked to his window. Outside, alien ships moved through space like they owned it. For decades, humans had watched and learned from these ships. Soon, that knowledge would be very useful. Call an emergency council session, he said. We'll handle this through proper diplomatic channels. Ji-hai looked at him like he had lost his mind. Sir, they killed 15,000 people. Diplomatic channels? For now, Hyunwoo said. But his tone suggested that for now might not last very long. The emergency council session was held in a smaller chamber. Only 50 alien species attended instead of the usual 200. Most seemed bored by what they saw as a minor border dispute. Hyunwoo presented his case with perfect diplomatic courtesy. He showed evidence of the unprovoked attack. He displayed recordings of Minho's final message, where the farmer begged for time to evacuate his children. He provided medical scans of the human survivors, many of whom had been tortured. The evidence is clear, Hyunwoo said to the assembled aliens. The Drakmor Empire has committed an act of unprovoked aggression against a peaceful human colony. We request immediate council intervention to restore justice. Skrikstal, the Drakmor representative, clicked his mandibles in what might have been laughter. His insect-like body was covered in chitinous armor that gleamed under the chamber lights. When he spoke, his voice buzzed like angry wasps. The humans misunderstood the situation, Skrikstal said. New Busan was located in disputed space. The Drakmor Empire was simply claiming what belonged to us. The human presence was unauthorized. Hyunwoo had expected this lie. Counselors. New Busan was established 42 years ago with full council approval. The settlement documents were filed properly and accepted by this very body. Thaisara, the Nethys delegate, floated higher in her gas form. Her purple clouds swirled with what looked like amusement. Perhaps the human colonists misunderstood property boundaries, she said. Her voice carried the tone of someone explaining things to a slow child. Primitive species often struggle with complex legal concepts. Graxtal of the Korth sharpened his claws on his chair. The scraping sound echoed through the chamber. The strong take what they need, he said. The weak complain about it. This is the natural order. Hyunwoo felt something shift inside his chest. It was small at first, like a crack in a dam, but he could feel pressure building behind it. Zethmoran spoke in his crystal choir voice. The council sympathizes with human losses, he said, though his tone suggested he did not care at all. However, disputes between junior species should be resolved through proper legal channels. We propose forming a fact-finding commission to investigate the matter thoroughly. How long would this investigation take? Hyunwoo asked. Given the complexity of the situation, perhaps 17 years, Zethmoran replied. 20 at most. The council must be thorough in such matters. 17 years, while human survivors rotted in Drakmor prison camps, while other species watched and learned that humans could be attacked without consequence. Yujin, Hyunwoo's aide, had been monitoring alien communications during the session. She leaned forward and whispered urgently in his ear. Sir, they're messaging each other. Private channels. I'm picking up fragments. What are they saying? Hyunwoo asked quietly. Yujin's face went pale. They're sharing jokes, sir, about human casualties, about how humans always cry to the council when they get hurt. One of them said we're like children who run to adults when bullies steal our lunch money. The crack in Hyunwoo's chest grew wider. The session continued for 3 hours. Alien after alien stood up to explain why the Drakmor attack was not really the council's problem. Some blamed human colonists for being in the way. Others suggested humans were too weak to deserve protection. A few recommended that humans simply accept their losses and move on. Not one alien species spoke in favor of justice for the 15,000 dead humans. When the session ended, the council had decided to form a committee to form a commission to investigate the possibility of maybe looking into the situation in a few decades. Hyunwoo returned to his quarters and sat alone for a long time. Finally, he activated his secure communication array. The signal would take 6 hours to reach Earth, but it would get there. Admiral Tae-young, he said to the recording device. This is Ambassador Hyunwoo with a priority message. Request immediate. consultation on alternative approaches to current situation. Diplomatic solutions appear to be insufficient. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Even secured channels might be monitored. Sir, I am formally requesting permission to reconsider our current operational parameters. The aliens have made their position clear. Perhaps it's time we made ours clear as well. Meanwhile, on Earth, Fleet Admiral Tae Young was already in an emergency meeting with the Strategic Command. Commander Sung Min had just delivered a report that made several officers turn pale. Admiral, we've detected massive fleet movements in Drakmor space, Sung Min said. They're mobilizing their entire military. Our intelligence suggests they're planning to attack more human worlds. Dr. Yan Su, head of the Xeno Defense Lab, looked up from her tablet. Sir, if I may, we've been tracking Drakmor communications. They're not just planning more attacks. They're coordinating with other species, the Korth, the Veltar, maybe others. Admiral Tae Young was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked the question everyone was thinking. Are they planning to wipe us out? It's possible, sir, Dr. Yan Su replied. Their communications suggest they see the new Busan attack as a test. If humans don't respond with force, they'll assume we're too weak to fight back. The room fell silent. For 37 years, humanity had chosen peace over war. They had chosen diplomacy over violence. They had chosen to be students instead of teachers. But students eventually graduate, and humanity had been learning far more than their teachers realized. Admiral Tae Young activated his communication array. Send a message to all fleet commanders, he said. Operation Revelation is now in preliminary phase. Begin moving assets to designated positions. Maintain stealth protocols until further notice. He paused, then added, and someone get me a direct line to Ambassador Hyun-woo. I think it's time we had a conversation about changing our approach to galactic politics. Back in the council chambers, Hyun-woo was packing his diplomatic papers when Ji-hai approached him. Sir, she said quietly, I've been thinking about what happened today, about how they laughed at our dead. Hyun-woo looked up at her. And I was wondering, sir, how long do we keep pretending to be sheep when we're really wolves? Hyun-woo smiled, but it was not his diplomatic smile. It was something much more dangerous. Not much longer, Ji-hai, he said. Not much longer at all. The summons came at dawn. A formal council notice delivered by a floating crystal drone. Hyun-woo read it twice, then handed it to Ji-hai. They want to discuss the human question, he said calmly. Today. Ji-hai read the notice, and her face darkened. This isn't a discussion, sir. This is a trial. They're going to decide whether humans deserve to stay in the council. So Young looked up from her communication station. Sir, I'm monitoring alien news feeds. They're calling it a routine administrative review. But the private channels are different. They're talking about the human problem and final solutions. Dongmin pulled up star charts on his tablet. The Drakmor fleet movements have accelerated. 12 more species have moved ships to positions around human worlds. If the council votes against us today, they'll attack. Hyun-woo finished. All of them, at once. But instead of looking worried, Hyun-woo seemed almost relaxed. He straightened his diplomatic uniform and checked his appearance in the mirror. Then I suppose we'd better give them something to think about. The council chamber was packed. Species that rarely attended regular sessions had come to watch the humans be judged. The atmosphere felt like a coliseum where gladiators were about to die for entertainment. Hyun-woo sat alone at the defendants' table in the center of the chamber. His team had been moved to an observation area, supposedly for procedural reasons. Really, the aliens wanted him isolated and vulnerable. Vor Anden of the Luminal Collective spoke first, the energy being pulsed with different colors as it talked, creating a light show that was beautiful and cold at the same time. We have observed humanity for 37 years, Vor Anden said. While they show some interesting traits, they remain fundamentally limited by their primitive biology. Carbon-based life forms simply cannot achieve the complexity needed for true galactic citizenship. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many species nodded or made their equivalent of approval sounds. Visara floated higher, her purple gas form sparkling with tiny lights. More concerning is their emotional instability. Humans become upset over minor territorial adjustments. They lack the rational detachment needed for proper governance. She was talking about New Busan. 15,000 dead humans were a minor territorial adjustment in her mind. Graxtal slammed his clawed hand on his platform's railing. Humans are weak prey pretending to be predators. They cry for help when challenged. They hide behind treaties when threatened. In the wild, such creatures are eliminated by natural selection. The Korth delegation clicked and hissed in approval. Several other species joined in with their own sounds of agreement. But the worst was yet to come. Scrixtal of the Drakmor rose on his insect legs, mandibles clicking with pleasure. The Drakmor Empire has conducted extensive studies of human capabilities. We have found them lacking. Their worlds are easily taken. Their resistance is minimal. Their technology is primitive. He paused for effect, looking directly at Hyunwoo. Human space would be much better utilized by species capable of proper development. We propose immediate relocation of human populations to designated reservation worlds. Reservations? Hyunwoo asked quietly. Small worlds where humans can live simple lives under proper supervision, Scrixtal explained. They would be cared for like pets or livestock. Their needs would be met, but they would no longer interfere with galactic progress. The chamber erupted in discussion. Most aliens seemed to think this was a reasonable solution. A few argued that complete elimination would be more efficient. None spoke in humanity's defense. Boram, in the observation area, was frantically working her translation equipment. She was picking up untranslated conversations happening throughout the chamber. What she heard made her blood freeze. The word being used most often didn't translate to pets or livestock. It translated to cattle. The aliens weren't talking about caring for humans. They were talking about farming them. The final speaker was ancient counselor Methgross of the Spore Dominion. The fungal being was older than human civilization, and his voice carried the weight of eons. The council has been perhaps too generous with primitive species, Methgross said. His words were like rustling leaves, but they carried absolute authority. However, complete elimination seems wasteful. I propose a middle path. He gestured with appendages that looked like tree roots. Guided evolution. We select the most promising human specimens and begin genetic modification. In 50,000 years, perhaps 100,000, we might create a subspecies worthy of limited membership. The chamber fell silent. Even the most violent species seemed impressed by this solution. It sounded reasonable, merciful even. But Hyunwoo understood what it really meant. Selective breeding, like cattle or dogs. The remaining human population would be surplus, Methgross continued. But waste not, want not. Their worlds contain valuable resources. Their bodies contain useful biological materials. Nothing need be wasted. The applause started slowly. A few crystal chimes from the Veltar, some clicking from the Korth. Soon the entire chamber was filled with the sounds of alien approval. They were applauding the planned genocide of humanity like it was a clever business proposal. Hyunwoo sat perfectly still through it all. His face showed nothing. His hands were folded calmly on the table. To the aliens watching, he looked like a man who had accepted defeat. But Boram was monitoring his biosigns through the diplomatic team's medical scanners. His heart rate was steady. His breathing was controlled. His brain activity showed the patterns of someone making complex calculations, not someone in despair. Finally, Zeth Moran called for order. "Human representative," his crystal voice rang. "Out. You have heard the Council's deliberations. Do you have any final words before we vote? Hyun-woo stood slowly. He looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien species watching him. Some looked amused, others looked bored. A few looked almost sad, like they felt sorry for him. None looked afraid. That was about to change. "Counselors," Hyun-woo said, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. "I want to thank you for your honesty today. For 37 years, you have hidden your true thoughts behind diplomatic language. Today, you have shown me exactly what you think of my species." He walked away from the defendant's table toward the center of the chamber. As he moved, something changed in his posture. The humble supplicant was gone. In his place stood something much more dangerous. "You believe humans are weak because we ask nicely instead of taking by force. You believe we are stupid because we follow your rules instead of breaking them. You believe we are helpless because we seem peaceful instead of violent." His voice was getting colder with each word. Several aliens shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "Allow me to correct a fundamental misunderstanding you seem to have about my species," Hyun-woo continued. "You have confused politeness with weakness. You have mistaken patience for stupidity. You have assumed that because we chose to be peaceful, we are incapable of being anything else." In the observation area, So-young received an encrypted message from Earth. Her eyes went wide as she read it. She looked at Ji-hai and nodded once. Ji-hai activated her communication device and sent a single word to every human ship in the galaxy. Revelation. Across human space, Admiral Tae-young sat in his command center watching hundreds of screens. Each screen showed a different human fleet moving into position. Ships that the aliens had never seen before. Ships that shouldn't exist, according to their estimates of human technology. "All units report ready, Admiral," Commander Sung-min said. "Operation Revelation is green across all sectors." Admiral Tae-young nodded. "Initiate Phase 1. Let them see what we've really been building all these years." Back in the council chamber, Hyun-woo was still speaking. His voice had dropped to barely above a whisper, but somehow every word carried clearly to the farthest corners of the vast room. "You want to know what humans are really capable of?" he asked. "You want to see what we can do when we stop being polite?" The chamber's massive screen suddenly came to life. Images began appearing that made several alien delegations recoil, in shock. Vorandon's energy form flickered with what might have been panic. "Then let me show you," Hyun-woo said, "what humanity looks like when respectful mode is turned off." The screens around the chamber blazed with light as classified human files opened for all to see. Alien delegates who had been lounging in bored superiority suddenly sat forward, their various forms of eyes widening in shock. "For 37 years, Hyun-woo said, his voice now carrying through the chamber without the humble tone the aliens had grown used to, "you assumed that what you saw was all there was to see. You were wrong." The first image showed a massive shipyard that stretched across an entire solar system. Thousands of human vessels moved through construction bays that dwarfed anything the Council species had ever built. Commander Sung-min's voice narrated from the bridge of a ship that gleamed like liquid metal. "The UES Indomitable, flagship of the Terran Deep Space Fleet," Sung-min said calmly. "Length, 47 kilometers. Crew, 200,000. Weapon systems classified. This is one of 800 similar vessels currently in service." Zethmaran's crystal form blazed with confused light. "Impossible. Our intelligence reports show humans possess barely 200 primitive vessels." "Your intelligence," Hyun-woo replied, "saw exactly what we wanted you to see." The screens shifted to show Dr. Yeon-soo standing in a laboratory that looked like something from a fever dream. Weapons that hummed with barely contained energy lined the walls. Devices that seemed to bend space around them sat on examination. Tables. In the center of it all, a containment field held what looked like a miniature star. "Human Research Division 7, Dr. Yansu said, her voice professionally calm. "We've had 37 years to study every piece of alien technology that came through our space. We reverse-engineered your weapons, improved your designs, and created things you never imagined." She gestured to a wall display showing schematics that made several alien species gasp. Veltar crystal technology, enhanced with human engineering. Range increased by 400%. Power output increased by 600%. Oh, and we figured out how to make them explode on command. Graxtal's claws scraped against his platform as he leaned forward. "This is trickery. Humans lack the intelligence for such innovations." "Do we?" Dr. Yansu asked. She picked up a small device from her table. "This analyzes biological samples and creates targeted bioweapons. We have samples from every species in this chamber. Would you like a demonstration of human intelligence, Counselor Graxtal?" The Korth delegate suddenly looked much less confident. The screens changed again. This time they showed what the aliens had thought were human agricultural worlds, but now they could see the truth. Hidden beneath the farms were manufacturing complexes that could have supplied armies. Underground cities housed millions of humans the Council had never counted. Orbital platforms disguised as weather stations were actually weapons capable of cracking planets. "Every human world you've visited," Yunwu said, walking slowly around the chamber's center. "Every trade station you've used, every diplomatic facility you've entered. We've been watching you, learning from you, preparing." Young Ho appeared on another screen. The head of human intelligence stood in a room filled with displays showing real-time feeds from across Council space. "We've monitored every Council session for 4 decades, every private meeting, every secret communication, every plan made against humanity." He smiled coldly. "Did you know, Counselor Thaisara, that you have a birthmark shaped like a spiral on what humans would call your left shoulder? Or that you're allergic to a specific type of stellar radiation that we can now produce artificially?" Thaisara's gas form swirled in panic. She had never told anyone about her birthmark. It was impossible for humans to know such things unless we've been inside your private spaces for decades, Young Ho confirmed, reading her expression. "Your homes, your ships, your medical facilities, humans have been everywhere, Counselor. You just never bothered to look for us." The revelations kept coming. Human fleets appeared on screen after screen, each one larger and more advanced than the last. Captain Bitna commanded a vessel that looked like a moving city. Admiral Haywan stood on the bridge of a ship that seemed to be made of pure energy. Commander Jae-sung reported from a dreadnought that bristled with weapons the aliens couldn't identify. "Current human fleet strength," Admiral Tae-young announced from Earth Strategic Command. 12,000 combat vessels, 4,000 support ships, 2,000 specialized units. All crews at battle readiness. All weapon systems armed and locked on target. The chamber had gone completely silent. Aliens that had been making jokes about human weakness minutes before were now staring at screens showing the largest military force in known galactic history. But Hyun-woo wasn't finished. "You want to know the most impressive part?" he asked, his voice now carrying a tone of such cold amusement that several species instinctively prepared for violence. "We built all of this while still maintaining our commitments to you. We still delivered your food shipments. We still carried your cargo. We still provided medical aid to your colonies. We never missed a diplomatic meeting or failed to pay our council dues." He stopped walking and faced Zeth Morin directly. "We did all of this while smiling and nodding and pretending to be grateful for your guidance. How's that for primitive carbon-based thinking?" Vor Anden's energy form pulsed frantically. "This is an act of war against the entire galactic community," Hyun-woo laughed. The sound was so cold that frost seemed to form in the air around him. "War? Counselor Vor Anden, this isn't a war. This is an education." The screens shifted one final time. Now they showed human vessels appearing simultaneously around every major council homeworld, not attacking, not threatening, just there, silent and massive and impossible to ignore. Your defense networks went offline approximately 30 seconds ago, tech specialist In Young announced from her control station. Her voice was cheerfully professional, like she was giving a weather report. Your communications arrays are now routing through our systems. Your weapons platforms are under our control. Your trade routes are being monitored by our fleets. She smiled at the camera. We've been maintaining your networks for you for decades. Helpful of us, wasn't it? The scope of human deception was staggering. For nearly 4 decades, humans had been the galaxy's janitors, mechanics, and technicians. They had installed and maintained the systems that kept alien civilizations running. And now, in one moment, the aliens realized that humans could turn all of it off. Scrixtal rose on his insect legs, mandibles clicking with rage. The Galactic Treaty forbids such actions. You are bound by the same laws as... The treaty was written by species who assumed they would always be the dominant powers, Hyun Woo interrupted. You're discovering that assumption was incorrect. Young Sao, a human diplomat who had never been seen before, stepped into view on one of the screens. She carried a datapad and wore an expression of professional courtesy that somehow managed to be more threatening than any weapon. We're not here to destroy you, she said calmly. We're here to renegotiate. The age of human supplication is over. You can adapt to the new reality, or you can be bypassed by it. Meth Gross, the ancient fungal counselor, extended his root-like appendages in what might have been surrender. What do you want from us? Hyun Woo walked back to the center of the chamber, but he didn't return to the defendant's table. Instead, he moved to the raised platform where only senior council members were allowed to stand. What we want, he said, is very simple. We want you to remember that underestimating humans is a mistake you only get to make once. He gestured to the screens around the chamber, still showing human fleets in position around alien worlds. Every species in this chamber now has a choice. You can join the new galactic order as partners, or you can be left behind as relics. But the days of treating humans like children are over. Admiral Tae Young appeared on the main screen, speaking directly to the assembled aliens. Effective immediately, all human aid to Council species is suspended pending renegotiation of existing treaties. All human-maintained systems will remain operational, but control has been transferred to Terran Command. All human trade agreements are voided. The implications hit the aliens like a physical blow. Human ships carried 80% of galactic cargo. Human technicians maintained most of the galaxy's infrastructure. Human food production fed billions of alien beings. Human medical research had saved dozens of species from extinction. Without humans, galactic civilization would collapse within months. However, Admiral Tae Young continued, Earth is prepared to offer new partnerships to species that demonstrate proper respect for human sovereignty. Applications for inclusion in the Terran Protective Alliance will be accepted starting immediately. Hyun-woo looked around the chamber one final time. Alien delegates that had been laughing at human weakness an hour before were now frantically working their communication systems, trying to contact their homeworlds with news that the galaxy had just changed forever. Any questions? Hyun-woo asked politely. The silence in the chamber stretched for what felt like hours. Hundreds of alien beings stared at the human who had just turned their understanding of the galaxy upside down. Some tried to speak but found no words. Others attempted to activate emergency protocols only to discover their systems were no longer responding. Finally, Counselor Zeth Moran found his voice. His crystal form pulsed with frantic light as he spoke. This is unprecedented. The Council has procedures for disputes. Proper channels must be followed. Hyun-woo turned to face the Veltar delegate. His expression was politely interested, like a teacher listening to a student who had missed the point of the lesson. Procedures? Hyun-woo asked. You mean like The procedures you followed when you laughed about 15,000 dead humans? The proper channels you used when you planned to turn my species into cattle? Zeth Moran's light dimmed. Around the chamber, other aliens were discovering that their communications with their homeworlds were being filtered through human systems. Every message they sent was being read, analyzed, and potentially blocked. Thisara's gas forms swirled with panic. Our governments will not accept this. There will be retaliation. With what? Asked Admiral Tae-young from the main screen. Your fleets are currently surrounded by human vessels they cannot detect on their sensors. Your weapons platforms are offline. Your defense networks report directly to us. Please explain how you plan to retaliate. The truth was sinking in. For 37 years, while the aliens had been congratulating themselves on their superiority, humans had been quietly taking control of everything that mattered. The prey had become the predator, and the predators hadn't even noticed. Graxtal slammed his clawed hand against his platform. The Korth Empire will never bow to human demands. We are warriors. We fear nothing. Dr. Yan-Su appeared on a side screen, still standing in her laboratory. She held up a small vial filled with what looked like ordinary water. This contains a biological agent specifically designed for Korth physiology, she said matter-of-factly. One drop in your water supply would cause complete nervous system shutdown within 6 hours. We developed it from medical scans you provided during peace negotiations. She set the vial down and picked up another. This one is for the Drakmor, this one for the Veltar, this one for the Nethys. She gestured to a wall lined with thousands of similar vials. We have species-specific solutions for everyone in this chamber. Would you like to continue discussing who should fear whom? Graxtal's claws stopped scraping against his platform. The reality of humanity's position was becoming clear. They hadn't just built a military force. They had created a complete intelligence network that knew everything about every species in the galaxy. They had studied alien biology until they could create targeted weapons. They had infiltrated alien technology until they could control it remotely. Most terrifying of all, they had done it while maintaining perfect diplomatic courtesy. The humans, sitting in council chambers for decades, nodding and smiling and taking notes, had been gathering intelligence for the largest covert operation in galactic history. Skrikstal of the Drakmor tried one last, desperate bluff. You cannot maintain control over the entire galaxy. Your numbers are too small. Commander Sung-min appeared on screen from the bridge of his massive vessel. Behind him, displays showed human fleets positioned throughout Council space. Current human population, 47 billion across 200 worlds. Current total, fleet personnel, 68 million. Current android and AI units, classified but substantial. Would you like to reconsider your assessment of our numbers? The Drakmor delegates' mandibles clicked nervously. The humans had been hiding entire populations from council census takers. Worlds that reported 20 million inhabitants actually housed 200 million. Agricultural colonies contained hidden cities with populations larger than most alien homeworlds. Vor-Andon pulsed with desperate energy. The other species will unite against this human aggression. You cannot fight the entire galaxy. Fight? Hyun-woo asked, sounding genuinely puzzled. Who said anything about fighting? Young Seo stepped forward on her screen, datapad in hand. As of 1 hour ago, 43 species have submitted formal applications to join the Terran Protective Alliance. 12 more have requested emergency aid packages to deal with system failures caused by the removal of human technical support. 6 species have offered to provide tribute in exchange for continued access to human medical technology. The numbers were staggering. In less than 60 minutes, the Galactic Order had completely reversed. Species that had been mocking humanity that morning were now begging to be humanity's allies. How? Whispered Meth Gross, the ancient fungal counselor. How did we not see this? Young Ho answered from his intelligence center. because you looked at us and saw what you expected to see. Primitive, weak, grateful. You never considered that. We might be letting you see exactly what we wanted you to see. He pulled up a holographic display showing communication logs going back decades. Every diplomatic meeting was recorded. Every casual insult was noted. Every private joke about human inferiority was preserved. We have complete records of which species considered us friends and which considered us food. The implications were chilling. Humans had been taking notes on who could be trusted and who needed to be controlled. Species that had treated humans with basic respect were receiving offers of alliance. Those that had been cruel or dismissive were finding their systems mysteriously malfunctioning. Fleet Admiral Tae Young addressed the chamber directly. To be clear, this is not conquest. This is correction. Humans have no interest in ruling other species. We simply refuse to be ruled by them. He gestured to displays showing human aid shipments being redirected. Species that wish to maintain friendly relations with humanity will find us generous allies. Those that prefer hostility will discover that humans can be very creative when motivated. The message was unmistakable. Cooperate and prosper. Resist and face the consequences. Hyunwoo looked around the chamber one final time. Alien delegates were frantically working their communication devices, trying to contact their governments with news that would reshape the galaxy. The panic was spreading as the full scope of humanity's deception became clear. I want to be absolutely clear about our position, Hyunwoo said, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. Humanity has no desire for revenge. We don't want to punish you for treating us badly. We simply want to ensure it never happens again. He walked slowly toward what had been the council chairman's chair. The platform rose automatically to accommodate him, recognizing his new authority. The Terran Protective Alliance welcomes all species that demonstrate basic respect for sentient life. Our requirements are simple. No slavery, no genocide, no treating other species as property. Follow these rules, and you'll find humans to be excellent neighbors. Admiral Tae Young added from his screen. Violation of these principles will result in immediate termination of all human support. Given that human technology now maintains most galactic infrastructure, this would be inconvenient. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact. Without human support, most alien civilizations would regress to pre-spaceflight levels within a generation. Ji-Hai approached the platform where Hyunwoo now stood. She leaned close and whispered, "Sir, we're receiving surrender requests from 7 different species. 3 more are offering to serve as human vassal states." Hyunwoo nodded but didn't smile. This wasn't a victory to celebrate. It was a necessary correction that should never have been needed. "Tell them we don't want vassals," he said quietly. "We want partners. But make sure they understand the difference between partnership and the relationship we had before." So Young activated the chamber's communication array, broadcasting Hyunwoo's final message to every world in council space. "Attention, former council members," Hyunwoo said, his words reaching billions of alien beings across the galaxy. "Humanity is now accepting applications for inclusion in the Terran Protective Alliance. Membership benefits include access to human technology, protection by human fleets, and participation in human trade networks." He paused, letting the words sink in across dozens of star systems. Membership requirements are simple. Treat all sentient species with respect, contribute to collective security, and remember that underestimating humans is a mistake you only get to make once. The broadcast ended. In the silence that followed, the sound of alien delegates frantically trying to communicate with their homeworlds filled the chamber. Some were probably trying to organize resistance. Most were trying to surrender as quickly as possible. Kwanho appeared on the main screen, speaking from Earth Strategic Command. "The transition period begins immediately. All existing treaties are suspended pending renegotiation. All human aid is suspended pending alliance applications. All human-controlled systems will continue operating under Terran command protocols. He looked directly at the camera, addressing every alien watching across the galaxy. For 37 years, humans operated in respectful mode because we chose to. We believed that politeness and cooperation would earn us a place in the galactic community. Today you showed us that respect must be demanded, not requested.